Hello everybody and welcome back to Alan Wall's Photography. This is Alan and we are at video number 2 in our 10-part series, The Basics of Photo Editing. In this video we're going to take a closer look at the way we can organize our photographs inside of Lightroom, and to do that we need to start in the left-hand panel. The first tab in the left-hand panel is Navigator. Navigator is a slightly larger view of whichever photograph your cursor is hovering over in the film strip. It's not something I use very much, but it's there if you need it. The fit, fill, and two ratios listed at the top of the Navigator bar determine how your photograph is shown in the central panel when you're in loop view. You can have it to fit the screen or fill the screen, or you can set a particular amount of zoom. This is 1:1 straight out of the camera. I don't really use this, mainly because I use gestures on the trackpad of my Macintosh computer. I find this a lot quicker. It allows me to move the image around and resize it without having to press any buttons. So we'll close the Navigator down. I'm not sure it's a particularly useful tool, but now you know what it is. The catalog is the big basket. The catalog is where all your photographs are stored. In addition to showing all of your photographs, the catalog will also split your photographs up into certain categories. Depending on whether or not you have a photograph in that category, it may or may not show. There are about 11 or 12 of these categories, but like I say, unless there's a photograph in that category, it won't show up in the catalog list. We're going to be talking about collections in just a few minutes, so we'll leave that for now. Synced photographs means photographs that are also in Lightroom CC, which is not a program I use a whole heck of a lot, but it's a cloud-based version of Lightroom that allows you to work on your photographs remotely using mobile devices. I generally don't do a lot of that. One other thing that you'll see here is the previous import. I brought these photographs in from another catalog, and that's why this number is the same as the all photographs. I haven't put any other pictures in this. So we'll close the catalog for now. Just think of that as the overall collection of your photographs. And let me remind you from last time, this isn't actually your photographs. When it says all photographs 31, it means that your catalog contains all of the information from the 31 photographs that you have imported into Lightroom. The actual photographs are on a physical location on your hard drive, and Lightroom is referencing those photographs when it says photograph. The actual photograph is not in Lightroom. You'll understand the importance of that as we go through here. Let's shut down the catalog for right now and consider the difference between folders and collections, because this is key to organizing your photographs well. Folders are actually a representation of where your images are on your computer. So when I open the folders tab, I can see that I have 31 images in the folder pictures, which is on my Mac's hard drive. Now, depending on where you put your photographs at import, say you may put them onto an external hard drive, that external hard drive would show up here. Now let's say that during the import you decided to place a batch of photographs into a file with a different name, then that file would show up here. Now it's important, I think, to consider your folders as a static representation of your photographs, meaning that when you import photographs and drop them into a folder, that is their location, and by and large that is where they stay. And for that reason, it is very important to come up with a folder naming system and a photograph naming system that makes sense for your workflow, because once these photographs are in their folder structure, you really don't want to be moving them around a whole lot, even in Lightroom, and definitely not on your computer's drive. If you do need to move folders, images from folder to folder, or reorganize your folder structure, you need to do it in Lightroom, because if you go moving stuff around on your drive, Lightroom won't know that, and it won't know where to find the photographs. How are collections different then than folders? Collections are groups of photographs, and the concept of collections is that they are very dynamic, meaning that the collections can overlap. A particular photograph could be in 10 different collections, depending on what makes sense for the grouping of your photographs. Whereas in the folders file, a photograph can only be in one place at one time. So let's, for a minute, consider the different types of collections. We have smart collections and quick collections. There was one referenced in the catalog up here. And we can also add collections and give them our own names, and we can create collection sets, which are like baskets of collections. And to do that, let me demonstrate. Let's go back to our loop view, our grid view, which is shortcut G. If we wanted to create a collection, say, of fireworks photographs, I have 4 of them here, I could select those 4 by clicking on the first of them, and then shift clicking on the last will highlight all 4 of them. And I can go up here to collections and hit the plus icon, and I can create a collection. I could name it Fireworks, seems like a reasonable name. We're not going to put it in a collection set because we haven't made one yet. And we're going to include the selected photographs. If I put set as target collection, well, I'll do that actually. That'll be helpful. And then create. Now, if you look in the collections, you'll see that we have created a new collection called Fireworks, and there is no longer a plus next to the quick collection, but there is next to the Fireworks. Well, what does that mean? That means that this is now the target collection. Now, there is a shortcut that you'll use a lot. We're going to go back to all of our photographs, but that shortcut is the letter B. B will send a highlighted photograph to the collection that has the plus mark by it. That means it's the active or the target collection. So let's say for some reason we thought that this photograph needed to be in the firework collection too. We would simply hit B. It would add one photograph to the fireworks, and if we went to collection, there it is. But one of the beautiful things about collections is photographs can be in multiple collections. So the quick collection is just like the fireworks collection, except it doesn't have a name. This allows you to create a collection, and you can name it and put it in a collection set if you desire when you're done. This is a quick and dirty way when you're in the grid view to select photographs by command or control clicking, and by hitting B, we'll send all of those photographs into the quick collection, and there they are. Now we can take this collection, we can rename it, move it into a collection set. So this is the best way to file your photographs in a way that makes logical sense for the way you do your photography. A word about smart collections. Smart collections are really useful. These are collections that are made by Lightroom, and you can set parameters yourself. You can add as many categories of smart collections as you want, but they give you some rather useful ones right up front. For example, if I had labeled any of these photographs with a red label, which is one of the 3 ways that we can rate or tag our photographs, then if I clicked on this collection, it would show me all the photographs that I had tagged as red. Let's say, we'll go back to the grid view. Let's say instead of giving this photograph 3 stars, I gave it 5, simply by pressing the number 5 on the keyboard. This now has 5 stars. If I go to the smart collection called 5 stars, there it is. It's going to filter my images to give me only the ones that I specifically want to see. And you can set these smart collections up to do anything you want. For example, show me the photographs that don't have keywords. So it can help you sort through all your photographs to find the ones you need to do work on. Show me photographs that haven't been edited, and so on and so forth. It'll show you all the photographs taken in the last month, any that are recently modified, video files, files without keywords, and so on and so on. And you can add to smart collections by pressing the plus icon in the collections panel and create smart collection, and then you can tell it exactly what you want to show up in that collection. Let's say we wanted a smart collection, we'll call it 2 stars. We just want images with 2 stars, but there are all of these other options that we could choose. Look through these and you'll see that it covers virtually every attribute a photograph can have. For now, we're going to go with rating, and we want to show all the photographs that have 2 stars, not 1 star and not 3, 4, or 5 stars. So from this drop-down menu, we can just pick is. That specifies that it's just going to be 2 stars, and these dots are stars. If we click on the second one, 2 stars, create. Now it's picked all of the photographs from the 31 photographs in our catalog, and it has shown me a new collection of photographs with 2 stars. So you can see how almost infinitely versatile the collection system is in allowing you to create multiple layers of organization that makes sense for your type of photography. So in summary, think of the folders as a static representation of where your photographs are, and think of collections as how you organize them into groups. Let's talk for just a minute about renaming our photographs, or naming them when we import them. Renaming photographs can be as simple or as complicated as you want. You get the opportunity to name a photograph during import, from any time in the library or any other module for that matter, and when you export them. I recommend that you come up with a naming template, a naming convention that makes sense for you, and you always use that template. The consistency is the important thing. Lightroom will apply most of the parts of the name for you because it already knows them. It knows the original file number, for example, that the camera assigned to it. And oftentimes it will give you an option to add some custom text, and you can do so if you want. It's a good idea so that you have some rough idea what the photograph is. But if you go to the top Lightroom Classic menu and click on Library and go to Rename Photo, it will give you a whole selection of templates that you can pick from. By hitting Edit, you can actually set up your own template any way you want it. But within this template, if you choose, we've highlighted this photograph, the Zoom audio recorder. Let's say we wanted to use custom name and original file number. The original file number appears to be just the number 5, and this custom text was the last custom text that I applied to a name, so it will be different for this one. We'd call it, say, the just a Zoom recorder. Okay, and now it has been renamed Zoom recorder and the number 5, which is the original number assigned to the photograph during import. So renaming is important, but consistency is more important. So I hope you understand the basics of the catalogs, folders, and collections, and why each are important for your organization, but that the most useful and the most versatile of all of these tools are the collections. Let's talk very briefly about publish services. It basically allows you to publish selected photographs directly to, for example, Facebook or Flickr. Setting it up is not that big a deal. You just click the setup button. It's very similar actually to the export menu that we're going to be talking about soon. Well, let's jump over to the right hand panel and run through these options real quick. The first drop down in the right hand panel is the histogram. As you click on any photograph in any file or collection, the histogram for that photograph will be displayed up here, which is a ton of useful information. It'll also give you the camera settings from that particular capture. It's just good information to have, and it's certainly much more useful when we get over into the develop module. Let's close that down for now. Quick develop. Let's get through this real quick. Just don't use this. Honestly, quick develop is a quick and dirty and inaccurate way to process photographs in batches, and I frankly there is nothing that you can do here that you cannot do better and more accurately in the develop module. I'm not really sure why this even exists. You could, for example, select all of your photographs, click on the first one, shift click on the last one, and for example turn them all into black and white photographs in one batch process. You can also do that in the develop module. I'm not sure that I see the point of having it here. Let's put them back to color. Any changes you make here, you're probably going to adjust in develop anyway. My preference is just to leave this panel alone and make all of my changes in the develop module. Your mileage may differ. Keywording is an important process by which we apply tags that have meaning to us, to our photographs, so that we can later find them when we're building collections or we're looking for photographs in our filing system. The way keywording works is Lightroom is very helpful in suggesting keywords and in suggesting keywords that frequently go together. It uses AI to track your use of keywords and gives you suggestions. So after you've been importing and collecting photographs in Lightroom for a period of time, you'll find keywording becomes easier and easier. It's just a matter of clicking keywords from either the keyword suggestions that Lightroom gives you, or the keyword set that is also recommended by Lightroom. Now, you can actually open up the list of all the keywords that you've ever used, and it'll also give you a count of how many times those keywords have been used. When keywording, it's really important to be consistent, and I recommend that you dig around in this section and see the various different ways that you can apply keywords. The simplest way, of course, is just to hit the Enter Keywords tab, and it will allow you to enter a keyword. For example, if I wanted to add the keyword truck to this, I could do so. It will add it to my list of used keywords, and it will apply that keyword to this image. So let's close down keywording for now. That could very, very easily be a video all on its own. There is a real art to keywording accurately and consistently. And where this becomes super important is if you're shooting photographs to be used as stock photographs, if you're selling these images to a stock reseller, they have a requirement that you use the same keywording that is the convention in that industry. So learning how to keyword accurately and using words that would make sense outside of your own personal Lightroom is a useful thing to learn. The next category is metadata. There are two different kinds of metadata. There is the EXIF, E-X-I-F. The EXIF data includes all of the information that is attached to the photograph with your image when it is captured. With modern cameras, it also includes sometimes things like GPS data, and I'm sure one day it'll also include your blood type. There is another category of metadata besides the EXIF data, and that's the IPTC data. That is information that you add yourself, and you can decide exactly what metadata is included with your photographs within Lightroom. You can also decide during export which metadata goes with your photograph and which doesn't. There is actually a menu tab in the Lightroom Classic menu at the top titled Metadata. It allows you to edit your metadata presets, and this gives you some idea of just how much information you can add to your photographs. Anything that you add to your metadata preset here will tell Lightroom what you want to be tracked with that photograph. It doesn't mean you have to export it, and it doesn't mean that when a photograph is exported from Lightroom that all of this goes with it. But it is just a wonderfully powerful tool for attaching information to your photographs. Now, we haven't talked yet about the toolbar. You toggle the toolbar into and out of existence with the letter T, the shortcut T. The shortcut for the grid view is G. The shortcut for the loop or close-up view is E. Now, if you hit the shortcut C or click on this button, the XY blocks at the bottom, it'll open up the compare view. And it will compare two photographs, one as the select photograph and one as the candidate. This allows you to compare them side by side. If you have multiple images, let's go back now to the grid view, but if you have multiple images that you want to compare for whatever reason, there's absolutely no reason you'd want to compare these, but we're going to click on these four, and if we press the keyboard shortcut N, it'll take us to the survey view, and in the survey view we get an enlargement of all four of the photographs that I selected. It's another tool for comparing. The next tab is, the shortcut is O, and it is the People tab. The People tool is a pretty remarkable option on the toolbar. If you take pictures of people, especially if you shoot lots of pictures of models for fashion, this tool will allow you to attach keywords that are the person's name, and Lightroom will use AI and facial recognition to apply that name to every instance of that face that it recognizes. So it's a very powerful way to organize your photographs by facial recognition. I don't shoot many people, and it doesn't work on snakes, so I don't use it that much. One of the most awesome tools in Lightroom is the Painter tool. This allows us to apply specific attributes to our photographs with just a quick spray of the spray can. Let me explain. When you click on the paint can, it will give you a set of characteristics that you can adjust. Keywords, label, flag, rating, metadata, and so on and so forth. Let's say we choose keywords, and let's enter the keyword creature. Now I take my spray can and I can literally spray that keyword onto anything that is a creature, and that will apply it. Isn't that fun? I think that's tremendous fun. Let's say instead you imported your photographs and somehow, for some reason, a whole bunch of them came out sideways. It happens. It happens. Trust me. So let's go to rotation, and we'll say rotate. Let's go to flip horizontal. Now, every time we spray an image, it will flip it horizontally. I think this is just insanely cool tool, and a great way to rip through a whole big file full of photographs and apply changes super quickly. Now I have to remember which ones I sprayed so that I can put them back the way they were. I think that's it. Okay, the painter tool. It's so much fun. Learn how to use it. The sort tool. This is an interesting tool that will sort your grid view based on the parameter that you give it. The order in which it was added, the time it was edited, the rating. Let's pick rating. What it's done is, you'll notice here the options are A to Z or Z to A, meaning it is going to sort it by rating, low to high or high to low, whichever you choose. Let's change the rating so the lowest rating images are first and the highest rated are last. And this is a useful tool, especially when you look at all of the other options you have for arranging the photographs. So play around with that as well. And I've already shown you that you can change the size of your thumbnails using this slider. All right. Lightroom gives you 3 different ways that you can rate your photographs, and you can use them together, you can use them independently, and you can create rating systems that are as complex as you want. And you don't just have to use them for rating. You can also use them for selecting or deselecting photographs from a collection or from a folder. Now, the most commonly used rating system, I believe, is the star system. I think everybody I know uses it. And to apply a star, you don't have to be in, you can be in grid view, you can also be in loop view. Now, this was for some reason applied 5 stars, but if I wanted that to get 3 stars, all I have to do is hit 3 on my keyboard and it will change the star rating to 3, which is about as easy as it can get. And this will allow you to go through a whole big stack of photographs and apply your star rating. The most common way that people use the 1 to 5 star rating is from 1 being rotten to 5 being great, and anything in between. But you can use it any way you want. You can use a rating of 5 to mean a photograph that needs to be edited, for example, or a 1 as being a rejected photograph. You can name them any way you want. But if you want to use stars to rate quality, but you also want to have another way of rating photographs, or identifying photographs is maybe a better word, you can use the flags and the colors. Now, the easiest way to think about the 3 available flags are yes, definitely, maybe, and definitely not. Let me explain in a little bit more detail. So here's a picture, and we'll say yes, I want to keep that, so I'm going to give it a flag. Hit the letter P, the shortcut for pick, and it will apply the flag, and you'll notice that it also moved to the next photograph in the film strip. That's because I set it up that way. You don't have to do that if you don't want. Now I have a white flag attached to that photograph, meaning that's a yes. So we go to the next photograph, and it's a maybe. Maybe keep it, maybe not. So what I want to do is not apply a flag, but move to the next photograph. The shortcut for that is U, or unflag, if you will. And if we go back to that photograph, it doesn't have a flag of any kind. That's U, no flag. We go to the next photograph, and we definitely don't want that terrible photograph. We want to throw it away. Hit the letter X, the shortcut X, and if you look at that in the film strip, you'll see that it now has a black flag marked for deletion. Now I don't actually want to delete that, so I am going to black flag it. The U will remove any flag, black or white, that you have on your photograph. So if we go back to this image, I can remove that flag with U, making it unflagged. So limited usefulness, but some workflows need that extra layer of rating. The third rating option that we have is to apply a colored label. There are 5 colors available. They are red, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And the first 4 of them have keyboard shortcuts. The keyboard shortcut for red is 6, 7 is yellow, 8 is green, 9 is blue. And to get to 10, you actually have to right click on the thumbnail, go to set color label and select purple. An unfortunate little quirk, because there are only 9 single numeral digits that Lightroom can use. Now, there is another way that you can do this. If you go to the metadata in the top menu and go to color label set and edit. Let me see if I can do that. There we go. It allows us to give meaning to these labels. We can actually apply a word that is more useful to us than red. Maybe excellent or rubbish, and so on. And that way we are adding more information to each of these color tabs. You know what? I'm not going to do that because I'll forget to change it back. Let's take this picture, and we've already labeled it as purple for whatever meaning we're giving purple. Let's also hit the P to give it a flag, and we have to remember that I have auto advanced turned on, so it goes to the next image, but we can go back to this. Let's give it a star rating too, and that would be, let's say we'll give it 4 stars. Now, where did it go, you wonder? Well, remember that we set up our sorting by rating earlier on. Well, it's moved any 4-star images down into the 4-star category here, so it's here at the bottom. Remember that when you have this sort feature on in the toolbar, it will, in real time, it will sort your photographs for you. So if you change the parameters of a photograph, it can move it. Okay, so this is super exciting. You know the library module now. You know how to import photographs, and you know how to organize them into folders and into collections, apply keywords, change the names, add metadata, change the colors and star number, and boy, everything you need to know about the library, except one thing, and that is, how do you export photographs from the library? Because any photograph you export from Lightroom is going to be exported from here. There are several different ways that you can turn on the export dialog. One is by clicking on the export button at the bottom of the left-hand panel. You can also select some photographs. I'm going to shift click this row, and I can right click on any one of them and go to export. You can do it from the file menu as well. Let's for now open the dialog by right clicking on my selected images. When I click on export, it gives me a series of presets that come with Lightroom, in addition to a series of presets that I have set up. And this is one of the times that presets are super useful in Lightroom. I do not like develop presets, and you'll hear me say this a lot over the next 7 weeks. I don't like anything that takes control of the editing process away from me and generalizes it into a preset. Don't ever buy presets. It's nuts. You can make the same preset yourself in 2 minutes. We'll be getting to that. But these presets are different. The export presets are super handy. The reason is, let's go ahead and just open the main export dialog. Now, based on where your photograph is ultimately going to be going, that will determine the settings you apply to each export. Now, obviously, you don't want to fill this thing out every time you export a photograph. And in all likelihood, you're going to be using your photographs in a pretty limited set of instances. You may be sending photographs by email. You may be sending them to a printer. You may be putting them on Instagram or on your website or on Twitter. Now, this is where the presets come in so handy. As an export example, let's pick this one photograph and let's send it to Squarespace, which is where my website is hosted. And if we're gonna send this to Squarespace, we need to send them a photograph that is compatible with the parameters that they require. So I am going to right click on the image, go to export. I'm going to ignore my preset because I'm going to show you how to set a preset up, and just go to export. This opens the export dialog box. There are several important things we need to pay attention to here. Firstly, I want to export this image to a specific folder from where I will put it in my website. Now, it allows you to search for the folder that you want to put them in using this Finder window. Now, I happen to have made folders for all of the use cases of exported photographs. And to explain that, if I click on my external drive and scan down the folder list, I come to one that's called Squarespace. Brilliant. And there are two versions, yet let's use the most modern one, and I'm going to actually put it in the website, not the gallery. And you can see all the photographs previously exported to there. Now I'm going to choose that folder. Now, when the photograph is exported, it is going to be exported to the folder on my hard drive that I have specified as the bucket that all my Squarespace pictures are stored in. I'm not going to put it in a subfolder, though it's easy to do. Just click on it and name it, and it will be put in that folder. I'm not going to add it to a catalog, though you could. You could begin a catalog of images uploaded to Squarespace so that you have a record in Lightroom of what all those photographs are. Prevent you from reposting an image, for example. And existing files is super important. If you already have a file by the name that you are getting ready to export from Lightroom, it will want to know what you want to do. Do you want to overwrite the other file? Do you want to give a unique identifier to this file? And the safest way to go is ask me what to do if that happens. The other options include things like overwrite without warning, which you definitely don't want to do because that will get rid of the other photograph that has the same name. So safest way is to ask what to do, and usually that'll come down to just giving it a unique name, which can be as easy as adding another digit to the number. So that's the safest choice. File naming, you can rename it, and you can rename it using any naming convention that you want, using the built-in templates. In this case, we're just going to leave it the same name that it is. Mating Devil Horses. Brilliant. And it's not a video, nothing to check there. File settings, super important. We're sending this to an internet site, so it's going to be viewed on screens. It's not going to be printed. The only file extensions that Squarespace will accept are JPEGs, GIFs, and PNGs. We're going to send it as a JPEG, which is preferred for viewing on screens. When you're sending a JPEG for screen viewing, send it in the sRGB color space. If you're sending this for printing, select Pro Photo RGB. It has a much wider color gamut. So sRGB, limit file size. File size is very important because a lot of the sites that you might be considering sending your photographs to have very specific limits. For example, YouTube, if you want to submit a photograph to use as a custom thumbnail with a video, they have a hard limit of 2 megabytes. They won't accept an image any larger than that. The size limits with Squarespace are extremely liberal. They're something like 20 megabytes. So just to be on the safe side here, I will select 20,000 kilobytes and know that we won't go over that. Not that that would be likely to happen anyway. All right, image sizing. Again, Squarespace has a very specific requirement. They want you to size your pictures to 2500 pixels on the long edge, and that is exactly what I have done. There are several choices of how you can size your images. I find long edge is by far the most useful. Don't enlarge would be if you were exporting a small photograph that you didn't want to be automatically enlarged and potentially lose sharpness and resolution. Resolution for the internet, 72 pixels per inch is absolutely plenty. You don't need 300 and above. 300 pixels per inch is the kind of resolution you would want to send if you were putting this folder in a file to print from, which we're not. Output sharpening, yes, if your image is going to be viewed on a screen, sharpen for the screen. It also allows you to sharpen for different types of paper, matte and glossy paper. I don't usually do this because I have my printer handle that at the other end of the export. And the amount can be low, high, or standard. Avoid the high, it really over sharpens. And if your image is already ultra sharp, maybe go with the low, but standard is fine. Decide what metadata you want to include, and this can be anything from all of your metadata, which I don't recommend, to everything except your camera raw info, which would be your EXIF data from the camera. Generally speaking, I leave mine on copyright and contact information only because they go with all of my photographs. Watermarking, hey, pro tip, don't do it. It's tacky, and people make fun of people that put watermarks on their pictures. If nobody's ever told you that before, I'm sorry to have to be the one, but I used to do it until somebody told me that, so I don't do it anymore. Post-processing, what do you want to do after export? Generally speaking, nothing. Every once in a while I want to send a photo to Photoshop for additional work, but generally the easiest way is do nothing. Now, we just went to all of that work to prepare one photograph to go to Squarespace. But I'm probably going to be sending other photographs to Squarespace, which I do all the time. So instead of just exporting this at this point, I am going to press the Add button, which will allow me to create a preset based on what I just entered into this panel. Which means, and actually I've already done this, so I'm going to cancel it. I've done this years ago so that when I press export on any photograph that is going to Squarespace, I just apply that preset and it sets up all the parameters for me the way I had them set up. And I have done the same for Facebook, Flickr, for printing, Instagram, wherever you're frequently sending photographs, build yourself a preset so you don't ever have to mess with filling all this information out again. It's incredibly helpful and one of the really powerful shortcuts available in Lightroom. So I would then hit export. Well, I'll export it, why not? That's already in that file somewhere, and you saw the export bar showed up for just a second and then it was gone saying the export is complete. So that is it for the library module. You know how to import into it, you know how to organize your photographs, you know how to add keywords, you know how to change your metadata, and you know how to export to other places on your computer. So there's not a whole lot else we need to talk about related to the library module. We will come back and touch on some of this stuff again. But if you're feeling a little bit discouraged about the sheer amount of detail that you have to get under your belt to understand Lightroom, don't. Just start with what you know and be patient. You'll find that it is actually a very, very intuitive program. The more you use it, the more comfortable you'll be with it. And it is so powerful. And we haven't even touched on the editing part yet, which is going to blow you away. So I will be back in a few days with the next video. If you just get insanely bored in the meantime, go over to my website, alanwallsphotography.com. Over there you can find the podcast, photographs, other videos, all kinds of stuff to keep you entertained. If you liked this video or it was useful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss future episodes. I imagine it's going to take several days to get the next one put together and finished up, and I'll have it out to you as soon as I can. In the meantime, have a good week, stay safe, and I will catch up with you soon. Take care.